guys, it's me, Coral. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have another video about some Dark Tower connections, and I'm so excited to talk to you about these books. Well, I guess let's see. It is, technically, it's like a novella, a short story, and a full-length novel. So today, we are talking about Firestarter and I guess it's technically a novella, The Mist, out of the collection The Skeleton Crew, both by Stephen King, obviously. So if this is the first time you're watching one of my Dark Tower connection videos, I will leave a little link up above if you want to check out why I'm doing this, I guess. I guess a short answer to that is just because I found this really awesome list that somebody put together, some kind internet stranger put together, kind of with a recommended reading order of Stephen King's works to kind of like get the most out of the Dark Tower experience, because I've only read the first two books in the Dark Tower series, and I want to go back and really get those connections that I probably didn't get before. Today we're talking about The Mist and Firestarter. So, Firestarter. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a summary here. I'm gonna try to be the least amount of spoilery I can be, and I'll give you a little review about it as well. So, Firestarter is the story of a young girl named Charlie and her dad Andy. And when Andy was a college student, him and Charlie's mom were involved with a sort of like government experiment. They got paid like a lousy amount of money, but to college kids it was worth getting kind of tested on. And they came away with these kind of telekinetic abilities. Andy can kind of push people to do things with his mind. He can kind of like plant thoughts and suggest things to them, and also have them forget certain things. And his daughter Charlie has pyrokinesis, so she sets fires, and these aren't always intentional. Sometimes it's after she has like a big surge of emotion or something like that. Sometimes fires will just start. So Charlie's mom has died, and they're on the run from the government, Andy and Charlie are, because they want to obviously rein in these people who have these powers, because they don't want them just running around everywhere. When these tests were done on Andy, it wasn't known that that the people tested on were going to come out with these powers. So for the sake of not giving too much away, I think that's all I'm going to say really about Firestarter. I thought that this was a pretty good book. It had King's I say it over and over again. It had King's characters. It was very easy to become attached to these people. There's a really, really great villain in here. Probably one of my favorite King villains of all time. He's depraved, and he's just written so well. But there's a large amount of this book where like hardly anything happens. And it was really tough to get through at first. I don't even remember where it starts to pick up, if it's halfway or maybe even further along than that. That really, I don't know, it was hard to get through. The parts that I liked, I really, really liked, and the parts that I didn't were just not so good. I thought Charlie was a great character. However, I believe she's only supposed to be 8 years old in this, and I get that she's supposed to be a little precocious, But I found that she was just way too mature for an 8-year-old. And maybe King was trying to do that purposely because of what Charlie had been through in her life. But I thought that, like, maybe this role would have been suited better for like a 10 or a 12-year-old instead of a girl Charlie's age. But I mean, that's subjective. It's just my opinion. So, on to connections. This one is these are just very, very, very loose connections. One thing I noticed that is probably more just a coincidence than a connection, but there is a Dr. Hochstetter in here, and there is a character in it, I believe it's Patrick Hochstetter. He's one of Henry Bauer's friends in the book It, and he dies in the story, so obviously this isn't him in any way, but I thought that was kind of interesting. It seems probably unintentional, but kind of cool. There's also, as far as having telekinetic powers, that's something reminiscent of the Breakers in the Dark Tower series. There's also the reference to the number 19 once in here, and actually maybe connection to the Mist, which has a tighter connection to the Dark Tower, is that the government agency here that's in charge of reining in these test subjects is called the Shop, and it's suggested maybe that the Shop also takes care of the Arrowhead Project, which is what causes the Mist in the Mist. So, I don't know. Very loose connections, like I said, mostly just speculation, not hard proof at all. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun to, I don't know, infer things like that, just to think about, even if it's not necessarily an intentional connection to the Dark Tower series. Next, I'm talking about The Mist, which is in this short story collection Skeleton Crew. I didn't really like most of this collection, but that's not what I'm here to discuss, I guess. I'm here to discuss The Mist, which I believe is the very first story here in this collection. Yes, it is. It's a lengthy one for a short story collection. Like I said, it's novella length, and I believe that you can buy just The Mist as a novella, which I don't have, but maybe I should. So The Mist is about this mist that kind of just comes. There's like this storm, and then suddenly this mist just like engulfs this small town. And of course, in any situation where there's adverse weather, people kind of started to panic. They're kind of grabbing supplies where they can. And that's kind of where our main character, I believe his name is David, and his son Billy end up. They end up at this grocery store, and they kind of get trapped inside because the mist completely engulfs everything. Like, it's a full wall of mist, not just like some fog, it's mist. And they start to see people, and people start to talk about things that they're seeing in the mist. They're talking about seeing people get attacked, but they don't really know what it's by. It's just like some monsters in the mist. And it gets pretty spooky. There's a really great character in here named Mrs. Carmody, who does the whole like, what do they call it? Apocalypse, revelation. What is it called when God is going to destroy the earth? Oh my God, I don't know. ooh, why do I do this to myself? Anyways, she is the rapture. That's what it is. So she's saying like, oh, it's the rapture. And she's one of those very crazy religious people that I love in books. Yeah, and to, I guess, talk about connections here, there end up being some military personnel who end up in the grocery store, and some people talk about something called Project Arrowhead, or the Arrowhead Project, something that was happening at a military base near the town, and they think that maybe that has something to do with this mist. So as far as connections go, we already kind of talked about the Arrowhead Project. In the Dark Tower, King talks about these like black places in space called Toadash spaces. And he talks about how there are like monsters in there that can come to other worlds. So there's talk that maybe the Arrowhead Project used something to like thin the veil between our world, or the world in the mist, I guess, and a Toadash space that like let the mist and these monsters in. And like I said, in Firestarter, there might be a connection between the Arrowhead Project and the shop, which is the government agency in charge of the Project Paperclip type of thing that Charlie and Andy are in. There's also the little town that the mist takes place in is called Bridgeton. That's also a setting in the Dark Tower series. And they specifically talk about a pharmacy in Bridgeton that is mentioned both in The Mist and in, I think, Song of Susanna, maybe? One of those. So, that's it, I guess. Sometimes Stephen King fans can get pretty heated if somebody else's interpretation of things isn't exactly their interpretation of things. So please don't come after me with that stuff. I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not writing a book about it, okay? I'm just reading these, doing some light internet research sometimes, and coming up with some conclusions maybe that are not, they're not bulletproof. So I know some of these are very loose, they're very reaching, but I just do this for fun. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have anything to add about these, I'd love to hear it. Let me know what you thought about The Mist and Firestarter. If you've read it, I would love to hear your opinions. I also have some links down to some of my book-related social media platforms if you'd like to follow me on there. But yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later, alligators.